Hello, welcome to class today. This is just a reminder that we are in session. Make sure you put your please do not disturb sign up, turn your phones on silent. If you're at home, turn Chopped or HGTV off and just be present in the moment as we go through this quick 15-minute session. And now we're going to do a quality check. So I'm going to ask for your guys' help just to make sure that everything is running just as it's supposed to. So we'll go ahead, and as long as you can see all three things that I mentioned, you can raise your hand. I say them. So if you can see the red record in the upper left corner, if you can see the quality check, and if you can hear me. All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. So today what our little session is going to be is it's going to be blended learning. The idea of blended learning fascinates me, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about it today. To help keep us on track, here's some of our learning objectives for this lesson. So participants can learn about blended learning, can identify ways to incorporate blended learning into the classroom, and can identify ways to incorporate collaborative thinking into the classroom. So what's the big idea here? The big idea is, what is blended learning? What is the standard definition of blended learning? What do people assume about blended learning? That's really what we're going to get into and talk about. So right now I'm going to have you go to the chat box, and I would like you to type out a definition, just a short one, of what is blended learning to you. Virtual listeners, you can post this answer to your missed class summary. Ginny says incorporating digital and face-to-face elements in single class. Hannah says blended learning is learning through varying mediums, online, in-person, etc. And Stacy says combination of technology, enhanced learning, and typical face-to-face learning. Absolutely. So there's this common misconception with blended learning that it simply means that a student is in a classroom, there's didactic lectures going on, and they have a tablet in front of their face. And it sounds like the class has a pretty good idea that that's not what blended learning is. So the definition of blended learning is the organic integration of thoughtfully selected and complementary face-to-face and online approaches to technology. So raise your hand if you think that blended learning is a good use of technology in the classroom. So nobody thinks that it's a good use? Okay, there we go. Maybe my computer was just moving slow. I was like, oh no, this might not be fun if you guys don't think so. All right, so absolutely, it definitely has a place in the classroom. Where we are in the world, and the students that we have coming into the college level and the technical training levels, they almost expect the blended learning in the environment. Okay, so in the chat box, I'm going to post a link to YouTube and watch the video from about 8 minutes and 30 seconds to about 9 minutes and 30 seconds. And then when you come back, raise your hand for me. I'm going to post it in the chat box. See you in a second. Okay, perfect. Everybody's back. Who wants to jump on the mic and tell me what they thought about that short little clip of that video?
I thought it was really interesting about how they honed in on teaching folks the skills first, so really equipping them with the ability to learn things as they needed to learn them, with this whatever materials they needed to do so.
I thought it was super interesting. I totally agree. That whole video, if you guys are interested in blended learning at all, I think that video is like an hour long, but it really is a really good, cool video, and it's cool how they're incorporating blended learning into high school and how high schoolers get more motivated because they feel like that's how college is going to be, and they get excited because they're starting to learn in the way that they feel like they're going to learn in college. And I just thought it was super interesting. So thanks for taking a moment to watch that. Okay, by using the pencil tool or the shape tool, whichever works better for you, circle the answer that you agree with the most. Technology does not belong in the classroom. It only serves as a distraction. Teachers should try to integrate any and all technology into the classroom. It will keep the students engaged. Or technology serves a purpose. The teacher should select technology carefully and only use what complements the unit. Perfect. You guys hit the nail on the head there. It's definitely that last one. To not integrate technology into the classroom, you'd be doing a disservice to your students. You really should, and you shouldn't integrate any and all technology into the classroom because you might find yourself doing something for the sake of doing it and not actually building the retrieval skills and allowing the student to really learn. So technology definitely serves a purpose, but as teachers, we should select that technology carefully and only choose what complements it. So with incorporating technology into the classroom, one of the biggest pushbacks that we see is skeptical teachers. And some people look at this as a negative, but really skepticism is a good thing. Typically, this means that we're putting thought into the technology that we're incorporating into the classroom, like we just talked about a moment ago, and not just thoughtlessly incorporating technology for the sake to have like the coolest, biggest, baddest thing going on in our classroom. So again, any technology that you choose should complement the big idea of your classroom. The technology should be making those light bulbs go off in your classroom. I have to say that that is the most motivating thing as a teacher, is going into the classroom with students that don't really know what you're talking about and then just watching the light bulbs go off, watching them start to understand what you're talking about and grasp the concepts. Technology should be complementing those light bulbs going off. As a teacher, whenever you're talking about blended learning and bringing technology into the classroom, you really should be collaborating in order to design this. You should be choosing a team of teachers, have different backgrounds and different opinions so that you can sit down and collaborate and come up with the best way possible to implement blended learning into your classroom. I can tell you from experience, implementing blended learning at the beginning is a painful process, and a lot of times it's hard to get the other teachers on board. So you need to make sure that you bring them in to the designing process so that they understand, so that you can explain as you go why blended learning is so important and why it is such a positive thing for the students. All right, so here's an activity. Go to the chat box and using the emoticons, show a happy face if you enjoy blended learning, the blended learning environment, and use a sad face if you do not. Be prepared to come on the microphone and explain your answer. Well, Jenny, since you were a different face, you want to explain why you do not enjoy blended learning?
I tried to do the slashy face, like in the middle.
In between. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that with the experiences that I've had so far, it's been both positive and negative. I think that blended learning is definitely the future, but right now people aren't implementing it very well. So I think that once there's better implementation of this sort of technology, then it'll be a better situation. Like, for example, if we stop focusing so hard on trying to like force a digital classroom kind of thing and start focusing more on like where technology really shines, then I think it'd be better.
I agree 110%. And I see it so often in the classes that I work in that people are in a rush to make blended learning a thing, that they're not taking time to learn how to properly implement blended learning. So I can totally see your opinion on that, Ginny, and I agree with it. I agree that blended learning, when done right, is amazing and it's perfect. But if they try to just push it and rush it and they don't take the time to really build it, then it's sucky and annoying. Like, why can't I just have this conversation? Why do I have to post it in the discussion board? So going back to what we learned last week and kind of tying it into what we're talking about this week, what if we could combine collaborative thinking with blended learning? What kind of environment would that be? I really feel that combining collaborative thinking with blended learning would be like the mega classroom. Like, we would have such an amazing, really cool learning happening in a class if that happened. So how can we combine the idea of collaborative thinking with blended learning into the classroom? An idea that I have that comes to mind with this class that I'm building right now is group projects. So I would like to split my students up into teams and give them an assignment that requires them to research. So they can be researching individually, but as a team. And then I'd have them input their final project into the learning management system. And then I would want them to stand in front of the class and give an oral presentation explaining their research, explaining their findings, and open that up for conversation between the other groups as they continue to present. So that would be an idea for me where I could integrate both blended learning into the classroom and some collective thinking. Another thing would just be discussion and having the students discuss a topic. You know, they have their learning management system there. They have their in their learning management system, they can have all sorts of references that they can refer to, and also research on the internet. We have tablets in our classroom, so the students would be able to use that to research and then individually discuss the topic collectively with a goal of coming to a common solution. All right, so this is another activity, and you're just going to use I have on here that we're going to use the voice tool, but I'm going to change things up, and I'd like you to use the chat box. So thinking about one objective, whether it applies to the class or your field of study that you're interested in, think about something that students could benefit from collaboration in a blended learning environment, and just type it into the chat box. Getting information from multiple sources, absolutely. Knowing how to communicate through varying mediums, opening up to other perspectives and views through multiple people and resources. Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right. So just to summarize it, blended learning classrooms are the way of the future. I think everyone knows that. Ginny stated that earlier as well. We know that collaboration builds critical thinking skills, so let's start a movement to integrate both into the classroom. And now I'm going to use the polling function. We're going to go through 4 little polls, and actually, instead of using your polling function, I'm just going to have you type numbers into the chat box. So answering the question, technology in the classroom should be 1, implemented without hesitation, 2, carefully thought about, and 3, not used at all. Perfect. You guys got it. All right, here's the next one. Collaboration can be used in tandem with blended learning. 1, this would be very effective. 2, this would not be very effective at all. And 3, not used at all. Perfect. And last but not least, in order to develop blended learning in the classroom, you would work independently. You know your class best. Collaborate with other teachers. What? Blended learning? Ew. Perfect. You guys got it. All right. So that's it for today. Does anybody have any questions before we go? All right. If no questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.